The evidence bag was empty when I opened it on the fourth day. I'm Detective Sarah Kovacs, Major Crimes Unit, Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. I've worked homicide for 11 years across 3 counties, and I've seen cases go cold, seen witnesses recant, seen defense attorneys shred airtight investigations on technicalities, but I'd never seen physical evidence simply cease to exist. The call came in on a Monday morning in late September. Convenience store homicide in Moreland, population 372, tucked into the northwestern corner of the state, where wheat fields stretch so far they curve with the earth. The store sat on what used to be Main Street before the highway bypass strangled the town's commerce. Most storefronts had been boarded up for a decade. The Quick Stop was one of 3 businesses still operating. Victim was male, early 20s, single gunshot wound to the chest. No ID on the body. Store owner Rita Vance found him when she opened at 6 a.m., called it in immediately. Patrol secured the scene, and I arrived by 9:30 with Officer Ben Hargrove, our evidence tech. The store was standard rural Oklahoma faded linoleum, flickering fluorescence, shelves half-stocked with off-brand sodas and expired beef jerky. The victim lay behind the counter in a pool of blood that had gone tacky overnight. 2 shell casings near the door. No sign of forced entry. Register was still closed, cash inside untouched. Ben photographed everything with his usual methodical precision. I documented the scene in my notebook. The blood pool measured approximately 4 feet in diameter. The victim's right hand positioned near the counter edge, fingers curled slightly inward. The shell casings were brass, 9 mm, positioned 1.3 meters from the entrance. Textbook single-shooter scenario. Rita Vance sat in her pickup outside, chain-smoking, giving her statement to a deputy. She was 61, weathered face and nervous hands. She claimed she'd locked up at 10 p.m. the previous night, seen nothing unusual. She didn't recognize the victim. We bagged the shell casings, swabbed the blood, pulled the surveillance footage from the ancient VHS system mounted behind the counter. The whole scene took 6 hours to process. Standard work, clean work. Ben took everything back to the lab in Enid. I spent 2 more days interviewing locals, checking missing persons reports, running prints. The victim's identity came back Wednesday afternoon. Tyler James Pruitt, age 23, from Woodward. No criminal record. His roommate reported he'd gone out Sunday night to buy cigarettes and never came home. That's when Ben called me. "Sarah, I need you to come back to the lab." His voice had a strange flatness to it, the tone people use when they're trying very hard to sound calm. "What's wrong?" "Just come back. Now." I made the 40-minute drive in 30. Ben met me at the lab entrance. He looked like he hadn't slept, eyes bloodshot, uniform rumpled. In 6 years working together, I'd never seen him look disheveled. He led me to the evidence room without speaking. His keycard shook slightly as he swiped it. He pulled 3 bags from the Moreland case file, opened them one by one. Empty. All 3. "They were here Monday night," Ben said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I logged them at 7:43 p.m., photographed them, started preliminary analysis, and this morning they were gone." "Someone took them," I said. But even as I spoke, I knew how hollow it sounded. "No one's been in this room. Camera footage shows no entry except me and the night tech. I checked the log. No sign-outs, no breaks in the seal." He pulled up his laptop. "There's more. The photographs I took at the scene. Look." He clicked through them. Crime scene photos, the store interior, the victim, the blood pool. Except there were no shell casings in any of the photos. I leaned closer to the screen. "That's impossible. I watched you photograph them." "I know. I'm looking at my field notes. 2 9mm casings, 1.3 meters from entrance, brass, minimal tarnish." I wrote that Monday. "But they're not in the photos." My hands had gone cold. "Show me the surveillance footage." He pulled up the VHS transfer, time-stamped, Rita Vance, locking up at 10:03 p.m. Sunday night. Lights switching off, the store sitting empty through the night. 6 a.m., Rita's return. Nothing else. No one entering. No gunshot. No victim. This is wrong, I said. We both saw the body. I know what we saw, but the evidence says it never happened. We need to go back to the scene. We drove to Moreland in silence. It was Thursday afternoon, 72 hours and 15 minutes since we'd first arrived at the quick stop. The autumn sun hung low over the wheat fields. Rita Vance's pickup was gone. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Copper and meat. Fresh blood. Tyler James Pruitt lay behind the counter in a spreading pool of crimson, chest wounds still seeping. 2 shell casings glinted near the door. He looked exactly as he had on Monday, down to the angle of his fallen body and the position of his hands. Exactly the same, down to details I hadn't written in my report. The specific way his work boots were crossed, the pattern of blood spatter on the lottery ticket display. Ben made a sound in his throat, not quite a gasp, not quite a sob. "It's back," I whispered. I felt my reality crack, not break completely, just develop a hairline fracture that would never fully heal. Because a body doesn't appear, evidence doesn't regenerate. Blood doesn't flow backward through time. My hands moved automatically. Training took over when logic failed. I pulled out my camera. Ben retrieved the evidence kit from the truck, moving like a man in a dream. We photographed everything again. Documented everything again. Collected the same evidence. I ejected the VHS tape with gloved hands. Rewound it. This time it showed what it should have shown. Monday. A figure entering the store at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night. The muzzle flash. The victim falling. The shooter leaving. It was all there now. As if Monday's processing had never happened. As if the evidence had simply been waiting to be collected again. "Sarah," Ben said quietly. "The timestamp. Look at the timestamp." The camera's internal clock read Thursday, September 26th, 3:47 p.m. But beneath it, in smaller text, was another stamp I'd never seen before. Collection 02 of 02. "What does that mean?" I asked. Ben's face had gone gray. "I don't know. This camera doesn't have that feature." I checked my own camera. Same thing. Collection 02 of 02. We logged the evidence again. I filed a supplemental report that made me sound insane. Evidence from initial collection disappeared from secure facility. Returned to scene. All evidence present in original condition. My lieutenant called me into his office Friday morning. "I got your report. You want to explain this to me?" I tried. The empty evidence bags. The surveillance footage that showed nothing, then showed everything. The body that vanished and reappeared. He listened with the expression of a man watching someone's career self-destruct. "Detective Kovacs, I'm going to recommend you take a few days. Get some rest. We'll have Thompson take over the Moreland case." "Sir, something is wrong with that scene." "Sarah, I've seen good detectives burn out. Take the weekend. Come back Monday. We'll talk then." I knew what that meant. Mandatory psych eval. Desk duty. I drove back to Moreland that night. I couldn't help myself. The quick stop was dark but unlocked. I pushed inside. Empty. Clean. No blood. No body. The floor gleamed like it had been freshly mopped. I checked my phone. 71 hours since the second collection. I sat in my truck until morning. Rita Vance pulled up at 5:58 a.m., saw my vehicle, approached slowly. "Detective, you're here early." "Rita, I need you to tell me about Sunday night again." She lit a cigarette, stared past me at the store. "I already told you. Locked up at 10. Came back Monday morning and found." She paused. "What did I find, Detective?" The question hung in the cold air. "You found a body." "Did I?" She took a long drag. I've owned this store for 18 years. You know how many times I've found something I couldn't explain? How many times I've opened that door and seen something that shouldn't be there? What are you talking about? Rita looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. This town died a long time ago, but something's still here, still happening. Same things, over and over. You try to take proof of it, and it just goes back, like it never left. Who's doing this? Rita laughed, a sound like wind through a broken window. No one's doing it. It's just what this place does. You document it, you collect it, you try to file it away somewhere official, and it goes right back where it started. 72 hours. Every single time. Every time? How many times has this happened? I stopped counting years ago. First time was 2006. Different victim, maybe. Same scene. Same everything. Called it in. Police came. 3 days later, I found it all again. Same body. Same blood. My mouth had gone dry. And you never reported this? To who? I learned to just let it run its course. It's been 18 years, detective. That's impossible. You've seen it yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. I couldn't. She walked to the store entrance, unlocked it. Here's some free advice. Stop collecting evidence. It doesn't want to be collected. Or maybe it needs you to collect it, just so it can go back. But either way, you can't stop it. She went inside. I stood alone in the parking lot, pulled out my phone. 72 hours exactly. I went back inside. Rita looked up from the register. Show me, I said. She nodded, led me behind the counter. The blood was starting to seep through the clean floor. Just a small dark spot at first, spreading slowly. As I watched, it grew, expanded, formed the familiar pattern. It takes about 30 minutes, Rita said quietly. I pulled out my camera, photographed the growing stain. The blood spread like a time lapse. The body began to materialize, first a shadow, then solid mass. Tyler James Pruitt taking form in front of my eyes, wound appearing in his chest. I couldn't breathe, just kept photographing. The shell casings appeared near the door, the whole scene reconstructing itself from nothing. How? I whispered. Wrong question, Rita said. The question isn't how, it's why. By 6:30 a.m., the scene was complete. Tyler James Pruitt lay dead behind the counter, exactly as he had been Monday, exactly as he had been Thursday. Rita called it in. There's been a shooting at the Quick Stop. I need police and an ambulance. I filed my final report that afternoon, closed the case as unsolved homicide. No arrests, no leads. Ben quit the following week, took a position with Highway Patrol. He doesn't return my calls. I'm still working homicide. I've closed 4 cases since Moreland. Good, clean investigations with evidence that stays where you put it. But I keep the photographs from that Friday morning in a locked drawer in my desk. I check Thompson's case file every 72 hours. He collected evidence that Friday. It vanished Monday. He went back. He put in for transfer 3 weeks later. The case file is still open. They send a new detective every few months. The evidence vanishes. They go back, they collect it again. I wonder how many times Tyler James Pruitt has died in that store. How many times Rita Vance has opened that door and found him. How many detectives have processed that scene, watched their evidence disappear, watched it come back. Some things just keep happening, whether we document them or not. The evidence always goes back, and 72 hours later, it's waiting to be found again. The dead don't call for help, but Jamie's voice won't stop asking. I'm Trooper Marcus Chen, Texas Highway Patrol, stationed out of Blackwell for the past 8 years. I work the graveyard shift on Route 177, a 60-mile stretch of 2-lane blacktop that cuts through ranch country so empty you can drive for an hour without seeing another vehicle. It's the kind of highway where you learn to keep yourself company, where the darkness presses against your windshield like something alive, and where the radio becomes your only connection to the world beyond your headlights. Tonight was supposed to be routine, temperature in the low 50s, clear skies, light traffic. I was northbound at mile marker 42, running radar on a known speeding corridor, when my radio started acting strange. Not the usual dispatch chatter, something underneath it. A hiss of static that rose and fell like breathing. I adjusted the squelch, checked my connections. The static continued, rhythmic and persistent. And then, buried beneath it, I heard a voice. Need assistance. Route 177. Please respond. Faint, distorted, but unmistakably human. Dispatch, Unit 73. Are you receiving an emergency transmission on this channel? Diane Ortiz came back immediately. Negative, 73. Channel is clear. What are you hearing? Unknown transmission. Sounds like a request for assistance. Very weak signal. I'm not picking up anything on my end. Could be interference from one of the ranch radios. Those old systems sometimes bleed over. Copy that. But it wasn't interference. I'd heard enough radio traffic to know the difference between a rancher's CB and a patrol transmission. This was the latter, fragmented and corrupt, but definitely law enforcement protocol. I continued north, and the static grew louder. The voice became clearer. Collision at mile marker 41. Need immediate backup. Officer down. My hands tightened on the wheel. Mile marker 41. 3 years ago, my partner Jamie Reeves had died there in a single vehicle rollover. I'd been off duty that night. By the time I heard about it, he'd already been pronounced dead at the scene. Dispatch. I'm picking up what sounds like a distress call referencing mile marker 41, requesting permission to investigate. 7-3. I'm still not hearing any transmission, but go ahead and check it out. Might be someone with a busted radio trying to reach us. I accelerated toward marker 41, and the voice grew stronger with every mile. Not clearer, the static remained thick and distorted, but louder, more insistent. Please respond. Losing a lot of blood here. Can't feel my legs. The clinical description. The controlled panic. I knew that voice. It was Jamie. I pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 41. Killed my engine. The stretch of highway looked the same as it always did, empty asphalt. Fence lines running into darkness. The distant glow of a ranch house 5 miles west. No vehicles, no signs of distress. But my radio was screaming now. This is Unit 7-5. I've been in a collision. Vehicle rolled multiple times. I'm trapped in the cab. Please respond. Dispatch. Please respond. Unit 7-5. Jamie's call sign. The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by static. Then it started again from the beginning. Need assistance. Route 177. Please respond. The same message. The exact same inflections and pauses. Looping. I grabbed my radio with shaking hands. Dispatch, are you hearing this? Hearing what, Marcus? Your signal is breaking up. The distress call. Unit 7-5 is broadcasting an emergency. Long pause. Marcus? 7-5 hasn't been an active call sign for 3 years. Not since. I know when it was active, Diane. I'm telling you, it's broadcasting right now. Emergency traffic. Officer down. Mile marker 41. I'm not receiving anything. Let me try to ping your unit remotely. See if there's a technical issue. I sat in my patrol car, listening to Jamie die, over and over again. The transmission cycled through the same sequence, weak at first, growing stronger, the final desperate call for help, then cutting back to static and beginning again. Each loop took approximately 90 seconds. I'd read the accident report, knew the timeline. Jamie had radioed in a traffic stop at 02:15. His last transmission was at 02:47, a brief, garbled message that dispatch couldn't fully understand. 32 minutes later, a passing semi-driver found his overturned cruiser. No skid marks, no obvious cause. Jamie had been alive when the truck driver reached him, but unconscious. He died in the ambulance. The report never mentioned a distress call. Nothing about Jamie requesting backup or reporting injuries. Just that final, unclear transmission. Then silence. But I was hearing it now. Everything he'd said in those last moments. Everything dispatch never received. 7-3. I'm showing your radio is functioning normally on my end. No anomalies in signal strength or frequency. Diane, I need you to do something for me. Pull the archived recordings from October 12, 2021, 02:47. Marcus. Please. I heard keyboard clicks. A long silence. Then, playing it now. Through my radio, I heard the archived dispatch tape. Jamie's voice, calm and professional. 7-5. I'm 10-7 at marker 41 for a quick break. Back in service in 5. Routine. Nothing wrong. But underneath that archived recording, I could still hear the other transmission. The one that was happening now. The one that had been happening for 3 years. Losing consciousness. Tell Marcus I'm sorry. Tell him to check the dash cam. My blood went cold. The dash cam. Jamie's cruiser had a camera that recorded everything. But the footage from that night had been corrupted, a technical failure, they'd said. The SD card was damaged in the rollover. Nothing recoverable. Diane, where's Jamie's old patrol unit? Impound lot, I think. Why? I need access to it. Tonight. Marcus, it's 3 a.m, and that vehicle was stripped for parts 2 years ago. There's nothing. The dash cam. Did anyone ever try to recover data from it after the initial attempt? I don't know. You'd have to ask Lieutenant Dressler. Lieutenant Paul Dressler answered his cell on the 5th ring, voice thick with sleep. I explained what I was hearing, kept it clinical, procedural, left out the part where I was listening to my dead partner's ghost transmission. The dash cam was examined by our tech unit, Paul said. Card was physically damaged. They tried 3 different recovery methods. Nothing. What happened to the camera itself? Should still be with the vehicle. It's department property. Why? I need to see it. Paul was quiet for a moment. This about what you're hearing on the radio? You think I'm crazy. I think you worked with Jamie for 2 years, and his death was sudden and unexplained. And night shift on that highway would make anyone start hearing things. But I also think if you need to see that camera to get some peace, we'll make it happen. Meet me at the impound lot in 30 minutes. The impound lot sat behind the county maintenance barn, a gravel yard full of seized vehicles and accident wrecks waiting for insurance claims. Paul met me at the gate with a flashlight and keys. We found Jamie's cruiser in the back row, a Crown Victoria, with one side completely caved in, windows gone, hood crumpled. 3 years of weather had rusted it to a skeletal frame. The dash cam was still mounted to the windshield bracket, or what remained of it. Paul removed it carefully while I held the light. The SD card slot was empty. That card was in an evidence box somewhere. But the camera itself was intact. There's another storage option, I said, examining it. These models have internal memory, 30-second buffer that records continuously and overwrites. If the card failed, but the internal memory survived, that buffer would have been overwritten as soon as power was restored, Paul said. Unless power was never restored. Unless this camera has been sitting here with whatever was in that buffer still intact. We took it back to the station. The tech lab was dark, but Paul had keys. We powered up the camera using an external battery pack, connected it to a laptop. The internal memory showed 28 seconds of footage. Timestamp, October 12, 2021, 02:47 a.m. Paul pressed play. The video showed Jamie's perspective from inside the cruiser. He was parked on the shoulder at mile marker 41, writing something in his notepad. The radio played softly in the background, normal dispatch traffic. Then the radio changed. Static flooded through, loud and overwhelming. Jamie looked up, reached for the volume control, but the static kept growing, and underneath it, a voice. His own voice. Need assistance. Route 177. Please respond. On the video, Jamie froze. His face went pale. He grabbed the radio mic. Dispatch, I'm receiving some kind of feedback on my channel. It's playing back my own transmissions. But that wasn't what was playing. I could hear it clearly now, the distress call, the description of injuries, the desperate pleas for help, everything he would say in the next 60 seconds. Everything he hadn't said yet. Jamie's hand started shaking. Dispatch, I'm hearing. The video showed his windshield suddenly spiderweb with cracks. Not from an impact, from nothing. The glass simply fractured, spreading outward from a central point as if struck by tremendous force. Then the cruiser lurched, began to roll. The camera tumbled with the vehicle, showing flashes of pavement, sky, interior. Jamie's face contorted in pain and terror. The radio screamed through it all, his own voice calling for help, describing injuries he was receiving in real time, predicting his own death. The video ended with the cruiser on its roof, the radio still broadcasting that endless loop of distress. Paul and I sat in silence. There was no other vehicle, he said finally. No mechanical failure, no deer, no blowout, nothing. The car just started rolling. Because he heard himself dying, I whispered. The transmission came through before the accident. He heard what was about to happen, and somehow that caused it to happen. That's impossible. Then explain the video. Paul couldn't. My radio, clipped to my belt, suddenly burst to life. Need assistance. Route 177. Please respond. Jamie's voice, still transmitting, still calling for help 3 years after he died. It won't stop, I said. That night, something started broadcasting his distress call before he ever made it. He heard himself dying, and it killed him. And now it's stuck in a loop, broadcasting forever, waiting for someone to respond. You're saying the transmission caused the accident? I'm saying something on Route 177 at mile marker 41 broadcasts death before it happens. And Jamie heard it. And now he's part of it. Paul's face had gone gray. Other troopers worked that stretch. Why haven't they heard it? Maybe they have. Maybe they just thought it was interference. Or maybe, I stood up, looking at the dashcam. Maybe it only broadcasts to certain people. People it's chosen. People who are supposed to be there. My radio crackled again, but this time the voice was different. Unit 7-3. Collision at mile marker 41. Need immediate backup. Officer down. My voice. My call sign. Describing an accident I hadn't had yet. Paul heard it too. I could see it in his eyes. Marcus, he said quietly, I think you need to stay away from Route 177. I requested a transfer the next morning. Lieutenant Dressler approved it without question. I work urban patrol now. City streets with lights and traffic and noise. I never drive empty highways at night. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my patrol car, the radio picks up something it shouldn't. Static that sounds like breathing. A voice underneath it, distant and desperate. Need assistance. Route 177. Please respond. Jamie's still broadcasting. Still dying. Still trapped in that 90-second loop at mile marker 41. And sometimes, more often now, I hear my own voice, mixed in with his. 2 distress calls, overlapping, both describing accidents that happened and haven't happened, both calling for help that will never come. The department sealed mile marker 41. Official reason, structural concerns with roadway. They rerouted traffic around it. But I know the real reason. Some places catch death before it happens. Broadcast it. Make it real. And once you hear your own voice calling for help from that place, it's only a matter of time before you end up there, listening to yourself die, wondering if you were ever really alive, or if you've always been part of the transmission. Jamie tried to warn me. In that last loop of his message, the one only I can hear now, tell Marcus to stay away. Tell him not to answer. Tell him the road is listening. But I answered. I went to mile marker 41. I heard the transmission, and now I'm part of it too, waiting for my turn to roll, waiting to join Jamie in that eternal broadcast of officers who heard themselves dying and couldn't change it. The dead don't call for help, but we do. We call forever. And sooner or later, someone always answers. The hallway I walked down yesterday doesn't exist today. I'm Detective Renee Tablet, Cold Case Unit, Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I've spent 14 years reviewing forgotten murders, decades-old disappearances, and cases that got buried under bureaucracy or incompetence. I'm methodical, patient, and I don't believe in mysteries that can't be solved. The Westcliffe mass disappearance has haunted Colorado law enforcement since 1987. 43 people vanished over 3 weeks in October of that year. No bodies, no ransom demands, no evidence of foul play. Just empty houses with meals still on tables, cars in driveways, lives interrupted mid-sentence. The case went cold by 1990 and sat in storage for 34 years until a documentary filmmaker's request brought it back to attention. My supervisor assigned it to me 3 weeks ago. The original precinct building still stands, kept as a county archive. All the physical evidence is supposedly still there. My job is to see if modern forensics can find something they missed. I arrived in Westcliffe on a Tuesday in late October. The town sits in the wet mountain valley, surrounded by peaks already dusted with early snow. The old precinct is on 2nd Street, a 2-story brick building with barred windows and a faded Custer County Sheriff's Department sign. It's been closed since 2003. The county archivist, Jim Kowalski, met me there with keys. Most of the old case files are in the basement, Jim said, unlocking the front door. He was 60-something, retired accountant turned part-time archivist. We moved some records to the new building, but the 1980s stuff is still here. Nobody's been through it in years. The interior smelled like old paper and mildew. Reception area, 3 offices, a hallway leading to holding cells, everything covered in dust. Jim showed me the basement access and left me alone with a promise to return at 5 to lock up. The basement was large, filled with filing cabinets and boxes. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The Westcliffe disappearance files filled 6 cabinets. I started with the initial missing person reports, working chronologically. First disappearance was October 3, 1987. A mining equipment operator named Thomas Gentry. Last seen leaving work. Truck found in his driveway, keys in the ignition, dinner heating in the oven. By October 24th, 43 people were gone. I worked until 4:30, then packed up. Jim locked the building at 5. I'd be back tomorrow. Wednesday morning, I went straight to the basement, ready to continue where I'd left off. The filing cabinets weren't in the same positions. I'd photographed them the day before, 6 cabinets in 2 rows of 3. Now they were arranged in a single row along the far wall. I checked my photos. Definitely different. Maybe Jim had moved them, though I couldn't imagine why. I found the cabinet I'd been working from and pulled it open. The files were in different order. Documents I'd reviewed yesterday were now several folders back. New files had appeared at the front. One was labeled Case Number 87-4419. I pulled the file. Single-page incident report dated October 11, 1987. The reporting officer was Deputy R. Tablet. My name. That's impossible. I was 9 years old in 1987, living in Denver. I'd never been to Westcliffe before this week. The report described a wellness check at a residence on Pine Street. Homeowner Margaret Chen reported missing by her sister. Deputy Tablet responded, "Found the house empty. Case assigned. Investigation ongoing." The handwriting looked like mine. The signature looked like mine. I photographed the report, then checked other files. 3 more case numbers I didn't recognize, all reported by Deputy R. Tablet, all dated October through November 1987. All in my handwriting. I went upstairs to check personnel records. The 1987 roster showed no R. Tablet, no tablets at all. I called Jim. Did the department have a deputy named Tablet in the 80s? Not that I know of. Why? I'm finding reports signed by someone with my name. Maybe it's a common name? Have you moved anything in the basement? No, I haven't been down there in months. I returned to the basement, took fresh photographs, pulled every file with case numbers in the 4,400 range, found 11 total, all signed by Deputy R. Tablet, all documenting missing person investigations in October 1987. None of these case numbers appeared in the master index. At 4:30, I gathered my materials and went upstairs. The hallway to the holding cells looked longer. I'd counted 4 doors yesterday. Now there were 6. I walked down the hallway, opened the first door, empty holding cell. Second door, same. Third door, same. Fourth door, not a holding cell, an office, desk, filing cabinet, name placard on the door, Detective R. Tablet. My legs went weak. I stepped inside. The office looked used. Coffee mug on the desk, jacket on a coat rack, calendar on the wall showing October 1987, case files stacked on the desk, all missing person reports from Westcliffe, all with my signature. On the corkboard behind the desk were photographs, crime scene photos, bodies in shallow graves, close-ups of ligature marks, evidence bags containing jewelry and identification. Victims I recognized from the missing person files: Thomas Gentry, Patricia Vollmer, Margaret Chen, all the people who vanished in October 87. They weren't just missing. According to these photos, they'd been murdered. And according to the files on the desk, I was the investigating detective. I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, boot heels on linoleum. I moved to the doorway. The hallway was empty. The footsteps continued, growing closer, coming from the basement stairs. "Jim?" I called. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice, distant and hollow. "Detective Tablet, we need your report on the Chen case." My voice, speaking from somewhere else in the building. I ran toward the front entrance. The door was locked. Jim had the keys. He wasn't coming back until 5. I checked my watch. 4:47. Behind me, the footsteps resumed. Multiple sets now. Radio chatter echoed from empty offices. Dispatch calls. Officers checking in. All dated October 1987. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The fluorescent lights began flickering in sequence, like something was moving down the hallway. The footsteps matched the pattern. I backed against the front door. The lights in the reception area died. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway, silhouetted, wearing a patrol uniform. It stood motionless, then began walking toward me. As it entered the dim light from the exit sign, I saw its face. My face. But older, late 40s, hair shorter, expression hard and tired, wearing a Custer County Sheriff's Department uniform, 1980s style. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Not quite my voice. Close, but with an edge I didn't recognize. "Who are you?" "You know who I am. You've seen the files, the reports, the crime scene photos. I wasn't born yet. I never worked here." "You're working here now. You've been working here since Tuesday morning. Time's different in this building. The hallways change. The files reorganize. This place remembers things that haven't happened yet." "That's impossible." "You've noticed the changes, the case numbers that shouldn't exist. This building documents its own crimes, and anyone who stays too long becomes part of the archive. The lights flickered back on. The hallway behind her was filled with people, patrol officers, detectives, all wearing 80s-era uniforms, all moving through their workday as if I wasn't there. The 43 people who disappeared, I said. What happened to them? They're still here, filed away. They never left. They're archived, like everything else this building takes. The building took them? Some places don't let go. This precinct documented crimes for 90 years. Eventually, it started creating its own, filing its own reports. Anyone who stays too long becomes part of the record. She gestured at the office workers. They all came looking for answers. The building gave them cases to work, a purpose, a place in the files. And you? I came in '87 investigating the disappearances, found case numbers that didn't exist, reports in my handwriting I never wrote. I stayed too long. Now I'm filed under October '87. Never closed. The front door rattled. Jim's voice. Detective Tablet, you still in there? I turned. When I looked back, the hallway was empty, just dust and silence. Jim unlocked the door. Sorry I'm late. You ready? I nodded and walked out into the cold afternoon. Find anything useful? I thought about the impossible case files, the office with my name, the photographs of bodies never found. Nothing conclusive, I said. I filed my preliminary report that night, recommended forensic analysis, made no mention of the impossible files. But I didn't go back. I sent a junior investigator instead. She lasted 1 day, came out pale and shaking, talking about hallways that changed and file cabinets that rearranged themselves. She refused to return. The Westcliffe case remains open in my files. But sometimes late at night, I get emails from an address that doesn't exist. The subject line is always a case number. The body is always blank. Those case numbers don't exist in any database. But I know they're in that basement, filed in cabinets that move when you're not watching, documented by officers who stayed too long. 43 people disappeared in October '87. I think they're still working their cases, walking those hallways. And the building is still adding to its archives, waiting for someone to stay long enough to become the next file in a cabinet that shouldn't exist, documenting a case that was never opened, signed by an officer who hasn't been born yet. The precinct doesn't close cases. It collects them. And everyone who walks through that door eventually becomes evidence. The photographs show my face on a dead man's body. I'm Detective Frank Delacroix, Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Homicide Division. I've worked murders for 16 years across the desert communities of Southern California. I've seen heat stroke victims, cartel executions, domestic violence gone fatal. I've photographed hundreds of crime scenes and testified in dozens of trials. I know the difference between what's real and what's a trick of light or camera malfunction. This isn't either of those things. The call came in on a Thursday morning in late September. Body found at the Salton Sea North Shore area near the abandoned resort district. The Salton Sea sits in the desert like a wound that won't heal, a landlocked body of water created by accident in 1905 when irrigation canals failed and the Colorado River flooded the Salton Sink. For a few decades, it was a tourist destination. Then, the water turned toxic, the fish died, and everyone left. Now it's just rotting piers, skeletal buildings, and a shoreline crusted with barnacles and bones. Deputy Aaron Moss was first on scene. He'd been patrolling the area when an early morning fisherman called it in. Body in the shallows. Aaron told me over the phone, "Male? Looks like he's been in the water a while. You're gonna want to see this one, Frank." I made the 90-minute drive from Indio, arriving just after 10 a.m. The temperature was already pushing 95 degrees. The smell hit me before I even got out of my vehicle, that distinctive Salton sea stench of decay and sulfur and dead fish. Aaron was waiting on the shore near an old boat launch, looking pale despite his tan. "He's about 20 yards out," Aaron said, pointing. "Didn't want to disturb the scene until you got here." I pulled on gloves and waders and followed him into the water. The Salton Sea is strange to walk through. The bottom is soft and unstable, and the water feels wrong against your skin, too warm and somehow greasy. The body was face down in about 3 feet of water, wedged against a submerged concrete piling from an old dock. I photographed the scene from multiple angles before we moved him. The body was male, 40s, wearing jeans and a dark jacket. When we turned him over, I saw the ligature marks immediately. Deep grooves around the neck, consistent with strangulation, defensive wounds on the hands, cuts and abrasions, suggesting he'd fought back. This wasn't a drowning, this was a homicide dumped in the water. But the face bothered me. Something about it looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. I took close-up photographs of the injuries, the clothing, the victim's features. Standard procedure. Aaron helped me bag the hands to preserve any evidence under the nails. We'd need the medical examiner to determine how long he'd been in the water. Dr. Nina Reyes arrived within the hour with the coroner's van. Nina was thorough and unflappable. 20 years of examining the dead, having stripped away any squeamishness. She did a preliminary examination right there on the shore. "Ligature marks are ante-mortem," she said, pointing to the bruising around the neck. "He was strangled before entering the water. Defensive wounds suggest a struggle. I'd estimate he's been dead 72 to 96 hours based on decomposition, but the water makes it harder to pin down exactly." "Any ID?" I asked. "Nothing in his pockets. No wallet, no phone. We'll run prints and dental back at the lab." While Nina worked, I walked the shoreline looking for evidence. The area was littered with trash-rusted cans, broken glass, old fishing line. A few abandoned buildings stood nearby, their walls covered in graffiti. I photographed everything, documented the scene from every angle. That's when I met the witness. An old man was sitting on the concrete remains of what used to be a picnic area, watching us. He looked like he'd been there for years, weathered skin, clothes faded by sun and salt. When I approached, he didn't look surprised. "You're here about the body," he said. "Not a question. Did you see anything? Anyone in this area over the past few days?" He studied me for a long moment. "I saw you." "When?" "Monday night. You were here with him." He pointed toward where the body had been. "Watched you drag him into the water." My stomach dropped. "Sir, I wasn't here Monday night. I'm just now arriving for the first time today. I know what I saw. You were wearing different clothes, but same face, same walk. Definitely you." "That's impossible. I was in Indio Monday night, working a domestic case. I have documentation." The old man shrugged. "I'm telling you what I saw. You and that man, arguing on the shore. Then you had your hands around his neck. Then you pulled him into the water. Stayed about 20 minutes, making sure he wouldn't float up. Then you left. Did you report this?" "Who am I gonna report it to? Police? You are the police." I took his statement, got his name Wallace Greer, said he lived in one of the abandoned buildings nearby. He was calm and consistent, no signs of confusion or impairment. He genuinely believed he'd seen me commit murder 3 days ago. Back at the station, I uploaded the crime scene photos to review them properly. That's when I noticed something wrong. The close-ups of the victim's face. In every single photograph, the features were subtly different from what I'd seen at the scene. The bone structure was wrong. The jaw was wrong. I pulled up the shots on my computer, zoomed in. The face in the photographs was mine. Not similar, not close, identical. My face on the victim's body, in every single image I'd taken. I checked the metadata, all correct. Timestamps matched when I'd taken them. No signs of digital manipulation. I pulled up Aaron's photos from before I arrived. Same thing. The victim in his photographs had my face. I called Aaron. The photos from the scene. Tell me what you see in them. What do you mean? Describe the victim's face. Long pause. Frank, are you okay? It's your face. In every shot. I thought maybe you'd noticed, and that's why you seemed off at the scene. Aaron, that's not what I saw. When we pulled him out of the water, he didn't look anything like me. I don't know what to tell you. I'm looking at the photos right now. That's definitely your face. I hung up and pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos I'd taken personally. All showed my face on the dead man's body. Ligature marks around my neck, defensive wounds on my hands, my face slack and gray with death. Dr. Nina Reyes called that evening. Frank, I need you to come down to the morgue. There's something you need to see. I drove there in a daze. Nina met me at the door, her expression carefully neutral. The fingerprints came back, she said. I ran them through AFIS 3 times because I didn't believe the results. Who is he? According to the system, the prints belong to you, Frank Delacroix. Badge number 7439. The body on my table is officially identified as you. That's impossible. I'm standing right here. I know, but his prints are in the system as yours. His dental records, which I'm having pulled, are listed under your name. Even his DNA, if we run it, will probably come back as a match. She led me into the examination room. The body lay on the table, covered by a sheet. Nina pulled it back. The face was mine. Not similar, not close. My face, exactly. Down to the small scar on my left eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident, and the slight crookedness of my nose from when it was broken in the police academy. I was looking at my own corpse. This isn't possible, I whispered. Frank, there's more. I found something in his jacket pocket that wasn't there during the preliminary exam. It must have been deeper in the lining. She held up an evidence bag containing a driver's license. My driver's license, current photo, my address, expiration date 3 years from now. I have my license, I said, pulling out my wallet. My license was there, identical to the one in the evidence bag. Same photo, same information. 2 licenses, both real, both mine. I don't know what's happening here, Nina said quietly, but officially, the victim is identified as Frank Delacroix. Cause of death is asphyxiation by ligature strangulation. Time of death approximately 72 to 96 hours ago, which means you were killed Monday night. I was working Monday night. I have witnesses, case files, radio logs. I believe you, but the evidence says otherwise. I drove back to the Salton Sea that night. I don't know why. Maybe I thought seeing the scene again would make it make sense. The sun was setting, painting the toxic water gold and red. I stood on the shore where we'd found the body. Wallace Greer appeared from one of the buildings. You came back, he said. Tell me exactly what you saw Monday night. I told you. You were here with that man. You argued. You strangled him. You dragged him into the water. What were we arguing about? Couldn't hear most of it, but I heard him say one thing clear. He said, "You can't kill me. I'm you." Then you put your hands around his neck and said, "I know." I felt my legs weaken. What happened after he went into the water? You stood there for a long time, just staring at the water. Then you pulled out a camera and started taking pictures. Lots of pictures. Of the water, the shore, yourself. Like you were documenting something. Then you got in your car and left. What kind of car? Dark sedan. Same one you're driving now. I looked back at my vehicle. Standard issue detective's car. Dark blue Crown Victoria. Mr. Greer, have you seen me here before Monday? Any other time? Sure. You've been coming here for months. Always at night. Always alone. Walking the shoreline. Taking pictures. Sometimes you just sit and stare at the water. I figured you were one of those cops who couldn't let go of something. A case maybe. Something that happened here. I've never been to this location before today. That's what you said this morning. But I've seen you here dozens of times. Always you. Always alone. Always looking for something. I drove home that night and pulled up my old case files. Searched for any mention of the Salton Sea. Found nothing. Checked my phone's location history. It showed I'd been to the North Shore area 17 times over the past 6 months, but I had no memory of any of those visits. I pulled up my photo library, scrolled back through months of images, found hundreds of photographs I didn't remember taking, all from the Salton Sea, all showing the same abandoned shoreline, the same rotting buildings, the same toxic water, and in some of them, reflected in the water or visible in the background, was a figure, always distant, always blurred, but clearly human. I zoomed in on the clearest one. It was me, the other me, the dead me, standing on the shore, watching the camera, watching myself take photographs. In the oldest photo, dated 6 months ago, there were 2 figures, both me, both watching the camera, both already dead. I filed the case as under investigation. Didn't mention the photographs or the witness statements or the fingerprints. The official report says the victim is unidentified pending further investigation. But Dr. Nina Reyes has his body in the morgue, officially logged as Frank de la Croix, badge number 7439. Aaron Moss has photographs showing my face on a murdered man. Wallace Greer gave a statement describing me committing homicide. I still work homicide, still carry my badge, still have my driver's license and fingerprints and all the things that prove I'm me. But I don't go to the Salton Sea anymore, because my phone's location history shows I was there last night, and I don't remember going. And this morning, there was a new photograph in my library, taken at the North Shore shoreline at 2 a.m., showing the water, the rotting piers, the toxic shore, and standing in the shallows, face down in 3 feet of water, another body, wearing my clothes, with my face, waiting to be found. I found the first car at mile marker 17, but by the time I found the 5th, I was watching myself die. I'm Deputy Kelly Brennan, Columbia County Sheriff's Department, Pennsylvania. I've worked patrol for 9 years, mostly covering the rural routes through coal country between Bloomsburg and Ashland. It's quiet work traffic stops, the occasional domestic dispute, checking on abandoned properties. Route 61 runs through Centralia, or what's left of it. The town's been burning since 1962 when a coal seam caught fire underground. It's still burning now, turning the ground hot enough to melt shoes and sending smoke through cracks in the pavement. Most residents left in the 80s. Now it's just empty streets and a stretch of highway that was officially closed in the 90s. The call came in at 2:15 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. Motorists reported an abandoned vehicle on Route 61 just past the old Centralia exit. Engine running, lights on, no driver visible. I radioed dispatch and headed north. The October air was cold, and ground fog was rolling in. Route 61 through Centralia looks apocalyptic, cracked pavement, with grass growing through it, warning signs about unstable ground. At night, with fog obscuring everything, it feels like driving through a graveyard. I found the vehicle at mile marker 17. Silver Honda Accord, parked on the shoulder with the engine running and hazard lights flashing. I pulled up behind it, activated my lights, and radioed my position. Dispatch, I'm investigating abandoned vehicle at mile marker 17, Route 61, Pennsylvania plate Victor Charlie Delta, 4729. Copy, Unit 12. Proceed with caution. I approached with my flashlight. The driver's side window was down. The smell hit me before I saw anything copper and iron. Blood. The driver's seat was soaked with it. Fresh, still wet, pooling in the seat and dripping onto the floor mat. But no body. No driver. Keys in the ignition. Phone in the center console. Wallet on the passenger seat. I keyed my radio. Dispatch? I need backup and forensics. Possible violent crime. Significant blood evidence but no victim present. Copy, Unit 12. Sergeant Wexler is en route. ETA, 15 minutes. I secured the scene and began a perimeter search. The ground showed no footprints, no blood trail, no signs of struggle. Just the idling vehicle on an empty highway. That's when I noticed the dash cam mounted to the windshield. The power light was on, recording. I should have waited for forensics, but something made me check it. I leaned in carefully and pressed playback. The footage showed nighttime driving. The timestamp read 12:17 a.m., 2 hours earlier. The car was driving north, then slowed and pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 17. The driver's door opened. A figure got out and stood in the headlight beams. It was me, wearing my uniform, my duty belt, everything exact. The figure stood there, then raised something to her head. The body jerked and collapsed forward onto the hood, then slid out of frame. The footage continued for 30 seconds, then cut off. My hands were shaking. Headlights approached from the south. Sergeant Tom Wexler pulled up, followed by Maya Patel in the forensics van. Tom was 54, 26 years on the force. Maya was 31, meticulous and professional. "Talk to me, Brennan," Tom said. I explained what I'd found. The blood, the missing driver. I didn't mention the dashcam footage yet. Maya began processing the vehicle while Tom and I expanded the search perimeter. We walked 50 yards in each direction, looking for any sign of where the driver might have gone. That's when we found the second car. Same make and model, same silver Honda Accord, same plate, Victor Charlie Delta 4729. Parked at mile marker 18, exactly 1 mile north. Engine running, hazard lights flashing, driver's seat soaked in blood. Tom radioed for additional units. We approached together. Everything was identical: keys, phone, wallet, and a dashcam. I checked the footage. Same view. Timestamp, 12:43 a.m. The car pulling over. The driver stepping into the headlights. Me again. Same uniform. This time I was holding my service weapon. I raised it to my temple and fired. The muzzle flash illuminated everything. Then I collapsed out of frame. "Tom," I said quietly, "you need to see this." He watched, without speaking. When it finished, he looked at me, really looked at me, checking that I was real. "That's you." "I know." "What the hell is this?" Maya's voice came over the radio. "Sergeant, you need to come back to the first vehicle. I found something in the trunk." We returned to mile marker 17. Maya had the trunk open. Inside was a body bag, full, zipped, closed. "I haven't opened it yet," Maya said. Tom nodded. Maya unzipped the bag slowly. The body inside wore a Columbia County Sheriff's Department uniform. Badge number 412, my badge number. The face was destroyed, gunshot wound to the right temple. But it wasn't quite my face. The bone structure was close, the build similar, but subtly different. "Run the prints," Tom said. Maya took fingerprints right there. The portable scanner connected to the database. Results came back in 30 seconds. Kelly Ann Brennan, badge 412, Columbia County Sheriff's Department. My prints, my identity, my body in the trunk. But I was standing right there. Tom keyed his radio. "All units, we need a full search of Route 61 from mile marker 15 to 20. Looking for additional vehicles matching a silver Honda Accord, plate Victor Charlie Delta 4729. Over the next 2 hours, we found 3 more. Mile marker 16. Same car, same blood. Dashcam showing me shooting myself. Body in the trunk, my fingerprints. Mile marker 19. Same car. Dashcam showed me using my baton, beating myself until I collapsed. Body showed severe head trauma. Mile marker 15.5. Same car. Dashcam showed me suffocating myself with a bag. Body showed asphyxiation. 5 identical vehicles. 5 identical license plates. 5 bodies, all identified as me. 5 different methods of suicide, all captured on dashcam. But I was still alive, still standing on Route 61 at 3:47 a.m. Tom pulled me aside. "Kelly, I need you to tell me you didn't do this." "I didn't. I don't know what this is." "Your prints are on all 5 bodies. The dashcam footage shows you. I was on patrol all night. Dispatch has my locations logged. We'll verify that. But right now, I need your weapon and badge." "Procedure." I handed them over. Maya approached, looking shaken. "Sergeant, the timestamps on all 5 dashcams are sequential. First one at 12:17, last one at 1:32, and the footage on the last vehicle. You should watch it." The 5th vehicle. Tom and I watched together. It showed me stepping into the headlights. But this time I wasn't alone. 4 other figures stood with me, all wearing Columbia County uniforms, all with my face. 5 versions of me stood in a line. Then, one by one, each enacted a different suicide. Gunshot, beating, suffocation, knife, strangulation. All 5 collapsed. The footage continued, showing 5 bodies in the headlights. Then, the perspective changed. The camera moved. Someone picked it up, turned it around. The footage showed the interior from the passenger seat, and sitting in the driver's seat, looking directly at the camera, was me. Not dead, alive, wearing my current uniform. The me on screen smiled, then reached forward and turned off the camera. Tom and I stood in silence. "I don't know what to put in the report," Tom said. "Neither do I." Maya called us over. "The wallets. Look at the issue dates on the driver's licenses." She laid out 5 evidence bags. Each contained my driver's license. The issue dates were sequential: 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. My current license was issued in 2023. "Different versions from different times," Maya whispered. Tom's radio crackled. "Dispatch. All units. We have a report of an abandoned vehicle on Route 61, mile marker 20, silver Honda Accord. Engine running. Unit 12. Please respond." "That's 6, Maya said. I grabbed the radio. "Dispatch. Request another unit respond." "Negative, Unit 12. You're the only patrol in that sector." Tom took the radio. "This is Sergeant Wexler. Deputy Brennan is not available. The next unit is 40 minutes out. Brennan can be there in 5 minutes." Through the fog, I could see a glow to the north. Hazard lights, red and yellow. "I'm not going up there," I said. But I felt pulled toward it. "Kelly, don't," Maya said. I started walking. Tom called after me, but I kept walking. The fog closed around me. The hazard lights grew brighter. The 6th car was identical. I looked inside. The dashcam was recording. On its screen, I could see myself approaching in real time. I opened the passenger door, pressed play on the stored footage. It showed me walking up, opening the door, checking the dashcam, pressing play, an infinite regression, each version watching the previous version. The footage showed me reaching for the trunk release. I hadn't done that yet. On screen, I watched myself pop the trunk, watched my face go pale, watched myself draw my weapon, except I didn't have my weapon. On screen, I raised the gun and placed it under my chin. The footage ended. I stood there, staring at the blank screen. I could pop the trunk, see what was inside, or I could walk away. I closed the door, stepped back, turned and walked toward the others. "What was in there?" Tom asked. "I don't know. I didn't look. I'm on administrative leave, pending evaluation." The official report lists 5 abandoned vehicles with unidentified bodies. The 6th car isn't in the report. Tom retired 3 weeks later. Maya processed the evidence, but the results keep changing. Sometimes the fingerprints match. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there are 5 bodies in the morgue. Sometimes none. I drive past the Route 61 turnoff every day. The highway is still closed, but sometimes, late at night, I see headlights moving through that stretch. Hazard lights flashing through the fog. And I wonder if the 7th car has appeared yet. The 8th? How many versions of me are parked on that burning highway, each watching dashcam footage of themselves investigating the previous one? The coal fire has been burning for 60 years. They say it could burn for another 250. That's a lot of time for cars to appear. A lot of time for me to keep finding myself. One death at a time. The woman in the photograph has been missing for 21 years, but the picture was taken last Tuesday. I'm investigator Raymond Cross, California Department of Justice Missing Persons Unit. I've spent 18 years tracking people who vanished, runaways, abductions, cold cases that other departments gave up on. I work with databases, forensic analysis, and witness interviews. I deal in facts and evidence. I don't believe in ghosts, but I can't explain the photographs from Bodie. The case is old. Angela Hoffman, age 26, reported missing from Bishop, California on March 14, 2003. Last seen leaving for a day trip to Bodie State Historic Park. Her car was found in the parking lot 3 days later. No signs of foul play. No body. The case went cold within 6 months. Last week, I received an email from Park Administration. A tourist named Michael Tran had submitted photographs asking about historical accuracy. He'd visited Bodie 5 days earlier and noticed buildings that didn't match preservation maps. I opened the first image and felt my stomach drop. The photograph showed Main Street in Bodie, weathered wooden buildings, mountains in the background. But walking along the boardwalk was a woman in a denim jacket and khaki pants. Angela Hoffman. I'd studied her case file enough to know her face immediately. Same bone structure, same auburn hair, but it was the clothing that made my hands shake. Denim jacket, khaki pants, white hiking boots with red laces. Exactly what she'd been wearing the day she disappeared. Details documented in the original report, but never released to the media. I called Michael Tran immediately. Mr. Tran, this is investigator Raymond Cross with the California DOJ. I'm following up on your Bodie photographs. The woman in your images, did you see her while you were there? Woman? I didn't notice anyone. I was focused on the buildings. Could you look at the first photograph? Main Street, looking east. Pause. Huh, there is someone there. Must have walked into frame. Didn't notice at the time. I need to meet with you. Bring all photographs from your visit. Tomorrow, my office in Sacramento. He agreed, confused, but cooperative. I spent the rest of the day reviewing the Angela Hoffman file. The clothing description was buried in supplementary documentation. White hiking boots with distinctive red laces. The photograph showed those red laces clearly. Information never made public. Michael Tran arrived the next morning with his camera and laptop. He was 34, a software engineer, methodical and detail-oriented. He'd taken 47 photographs during his visit. Angela Hoffman appeared in 32 of them. We went through them chronologically. The first showed her at a distance near the Methodist Church. The next showed her progressively closer, moving through town. By the 20th photograph, she was clearly visible, face turned toward the camera. It was definitely her. I swear I didn't see her, Michael said. The place was practically empty. Tell me exactly what you saw that day. I arrived around 10 a.m., got a map from the ranger station, spent 3 hours walking through town, taking photographs. It was quiet. A few other tourists, but everyone spreads out. Anything unusual? He hesitated. The buildings. Some looked different than the preservation maps. The general store had intact windows. The saloon had a complete roof. The map shows those as partial ruins. I pulled up the current Bodie preservation inventory. Cross-referenced with his photographs, he was right. Several buildings in his images were substantially more intact than current records indicated. Those structures collapsed in the 1970s, I said. They haven't looked like that in 50 years. Michael went pale. That's not possible. I showed him Angela's case file photo from 2003. Same woman, same clothing, same red-laced boots. She disappeared 21 years ago. Last seen driving to Bodie. Never found. You think I photographed a ghost? I don't know what you photographed, but I need to go to Bodie. Today. Will you come? He nodded. We made the 4-hour drive in silence. Bodie sits at 8,500 feet elevation, accessible by a long dirt road from Highway 395. Gold Rush boomtown in the 1800s, declined into abandonment, became a state park in 1962. Preserved in arrested decay, maintained exactly as abandoned, not restored. We arrived at 3 p.m. Park Ranger Susan Elliott met us. 56, 15 years at Bodie, knew every building's history. I showed her Michael's photographs. She studied them, expression troubled. These buildings don't look like this anymore. Haven't for decades. Could the photographs be altered? I'm not a tech expert, but I know Bodie. These show buildings that no longer exist in this condition. What about the woman? Susan stared at Angela's image. I've never seen her, but we occasionally get reports. People claiming to see figures in buildings, walking the streets, usually dismissed as shadows. But descriptions are sometimes very specific. They often match clothing styles from decades ago. How often? Once or twice a year. We don't publicize it. Do you keep records? Susan led us to the ranger station, pulled out a notebook with handwritten entries dating back 7 years. Brief descriptions. Figure in bowler hat near barbershop, matches 1880s clothing. Woman in flower print dress near schoolhouse. Man in miner's clothes walking toward stamp mill. One entry from March 2003. Female visitor reported seeing woman in denim jacket and khaki pants. Unable to locate. Visitor seemed distressed. The date was March 15th, the day after Angela was reported missing. Do you have the visitor's name? Catherine Brenner, from Bishop. I ran the name. Found an obituary from 2007. I need to walk the site. The exact route Michael took. We retraced Michael's path using GPS metadata. Started at the Methodist Church, moved down Main Street, past the general store. As we walked, I took photographs. Every angle Michael had captured. That's when I noticed something wrong. The general store. In Michael's photograph from 5 days ago, it had intact windows with merchandise visible inside. Standing in front of it now, the windows were boarded over, the interior dark. I checked preservation records. Windows boarded in 1976. Susan, when were these windows boarded? They've been like that since before I started. At least 15 years. But Michael's photograph, taken 5 days ago with verified metadata, showed intact glass, merchandise visible, a handwritten sign in the window. We continued down Main Street. Every building Michael photographed was subtly different now, more decayed, more weathered. This doesn't make sense, Michael whispered. We reached where Michael took his clearest photograph of Angela. I compared it to the current view. The firehouse looked 20 years older now. Paint more faded, wood more splintered. But in Michael's photograph from Tuesday, it looked exactly as it would have in 2003. She's seeing Bodie as it was 21 years ago, I said slowly. And somehow, Michael photographed her there. That's impossible, Susan said. The buildings in his photographs match 2003. The woman's clothing matches Angela Hoffman. The witness report from March 03. It all lines up. You're saying she's been here for 21 years? Something preserved her. Arrested decay. Frozen in time. But she's not in our time. She's in March 2003. And occasionally, they overlap. Susan's radio crackled. Another ranger reporting a visitor asking about a woman in a denim jacket near the stamp mill. Right now, we ran. The stamp mill was at the north end. We reached it in 5 minutes. A couple stood near the entrance. She was just here, the man said. We saw her walk inside, but when we followed, no one was there. I entered with my flashlight. The interior was dark, filled with rusting machinery. And standing near the far wall was Angela Hoffman, 26 years old, auburn hair, denim jacket. She moved naturally, examining equipment, completely unaware of our presence. Angela? She didn't respond. Continued examining the machinery. Angela Hoffman? Nothing. She existed in her moment, March 14th, 2003, and we existed in ours. I raised my camera. Through the viewfinder, I could see her clearly, but when I checked the screen, she wasn't there, just the empty mill. Michael tried. Same result. Viewfinder showed her. Recorded image showed nothing. Angela moved toward the exit, walked past us without seeing us, stepped into the sunlight, and continued toward town. We followed for 20 minutes. She walked the streets like any tourist. Other visitors passed by without noticing. Eventually, she walked toward the parking area, and then she faded, became translucent, disappeared. She's been doing this for 21 years, Susan whispered, walking through Bodie, the same day over and over. We searched the area, ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, found nothing. I filed a supplemental report, documented the photographs, witness statements, temporal discrepancies. The case remains officially open but inactive. Michael deleted all his photographs except one, keeps it as a reminder. Susan still works at Bodie, tracks the sightings now. The woman in the denim jacket appears 3 or 4 times a year, always in March. I visit twice a year, stand where Angela walked, wonder what preserved her there. Arrested decay, preserving things exactly as they were when time stopped. But time didn't stop for Bodie's buildings. It stopped for Angela Hoffman. And on days when conditions align, you can still see her walking Main Street, looking at a world that's moved on without her, frozen forever in the moment she disappeared.